All right, hello, starseeds and magical friends, and welcome to the live stream. This is a Neuro-Linguistic Astrology Salon, the Neuro-Linguistic Astrology Salon, and I am your host, Rachel Z. Welcome, welcome. I know I'm not in cosplay for the first time in a little while. I am going to be doing a cosplay a little bit later on this evening as Jean Grey, so you can catch that on my TikTok if you are so inclined. But today, just fixing my camera. I haven't done this in a little while, so all my setup I had to readjust everything. So today, let me just double check my levels. Okay, good. So today we're going to be talking about astro from a perspective of heroic archetypes. So the reason being is that I am going to be doing on Thursday a talk about the constellation of the Justice League in the sense of synastry, right? So if you have a birth chart, you have an astrology, your sun sign is a particular sign, and that comes with it a certain set of energies with it. And that certain set of energies, in the case of this, lines up with heroic archetypes. What does it mean to be a heroic archetype? Well, Joseph Campbell talks about the hero's journey, and I learned about the hero's journey when I was in English class and in university, and even before that, like grade 10 English class with Mrs. Paderniak. But the hero's journey, right, where there's this, I think I can pull it up. Let me do that. Oh, let me not show you guys that. Let me see if I can find hero's journey. Oh, let me make sure the desktop audio is on for that, just in case. Ah, yes, this is what I wanted to look at. There's a couple different renditions, but they're all essentially the same. It's this cycle that you go through as a hero. And each of us, as different heroes of our own personal story of life, are going to be approaching these steps and perhaps our own lens in our own way. So let's just go through it. I like this one. Actually, it's got like a lightsaber, and it's cool too because Star Wars was a movie, A New Hope. We watched that in English class to kind of illustrate this hero's journey as well. And maybe I can use that as an example as we work our way through. And then we'll go into each of the zodiac signs and how they match up to the 12 heroic archetypes that exist, just in my opinion. And then we'll get into the fact that my Dragon Warriors book, I'm actually going to turn it into a tabletop RPG game based on astrology. So stay tuned for that and how you can actually join in with your own custom characters based on your personal astrology as well. So first of all, when the hero is, I guess, activated, you get the call to adventure. And then, oh yes, here sometimes people refuse the call. And then there's supernatural aid, and then you cross the threshold. So this is like, when you start the journey and you're about to get on the boat, go into a brand new land. In the Hobbit's case, or in Frodo's case, it's leaving the Shire, right? So you're leaving a place of comfort. You're leaving your home to, it's the monomyth, right? To go out and learn and gather what you need to gather. So you cross the threshold. You then go into the belly of the whale, the belly of the beast. You like go down into the thick of it, right? The road of trials, the meeting with the goddess. This is an important one. The goddess typically gives you a gift. There's also here like supernatural aid. It can be related. So an example of this would be in Beowulf, when you have the queen who is there. I mean, like, she's married to the king, but she also seems like she kind of likes Beowulf a lot too, though. But she does give advice, and it's just like that goddess aid that helps the hero along his way. Now, the contrast to the meeting with the goddess is the woman or temptress. So someone in Arthur, let's use the Arthurian legends in this case, Morgan Le Fay, who is the temptress, and he gives into that, and that mistake is something that comes back around later in his path. There's also here the moment with the father, Luke, I am your father. A moment of addressing, I look at this as like knowing where you come from, right? Your birthright, and all like positive and negative from that. And then apothes, oh my gosh, apotheosis. I forget what that actually means. Let me look. Apotheos. I don't want to misspeak for you guys. Oh, yes. Exaltation to divine rank or stature. So it's like this transformational aspect. So in Luke's case, like when you become a Jedi, when you go through the trials and tribulations and you come up out the other side, and you have leveled up onto the next, right? And then the ultimate boon. I don't know what that means. I guess it's like a treasure, right? And then here we have refusal of the return, the magic flight. What is this? Rescue from without, crossing of the return threshold. So like the threshold here, and then you're coming back. The journey is over, and now you're coming back home. And then master of two worlds, freedom to live, and then we can start the whole circle over again. That was interesting. I thought there's more steps in this, I think, to I guess to accommodate more stories, because it is the one myth, right? The one that I'm typically used to is, where are you? This one, right? Where this kind of lines up more with how the zodiac looks. And if you think about, let's say, Aries starting the chart, and depending on where your ascendant or rising sign is, that's where your chart would start, right? And so you have, where are we? Seizing the treasure, the ordeal, refusal of the call. How come this one doesn't have that initial part? Oh, so they start it here. I see. Okay, so they're saying that, like, I don't know if I like this chart. Sorry, guys. Do this one. Hero's Journey. There we go. Yeah, I don't like how it goes this way. Oh my gosh, I wish this was done more. Where is my other chart that has this properly? This one's in a spiral. Oh, this I like better. Okay, because it's got a nice curve. So we have the begin. You're in stasis at first, right? So nothing happens. And do like this is like the call to adventure as being Aries. And I do love here the refusal of the call, right? So there's, oh my gosh, my doggy's reacting to this. The refusal of the call, it typically comes because you're like, wow, this mission is too big for me. This is too much. But then you will meet the mentor or someone who, like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, who meets with Frodo and is like, you have a grand mission. And then you cross the threshold. Hold on, I'm just going to wake my dog up. Kofi. Hey. Okay. My dog is a very active dreamer, so just reassure him that everything is okay. So we've got crossing the threshold, and then we have tests, allies, and enemies. Approach to the inmost cave, the ordeal in the abyss, facing your shadow self, right? This you descend into the underworld. Odysseus even goes into the underworld, right? So in the underworld, there becomes a confrontation between you and your shadow self, and then a way of integrating all of those darker aspects of ourselves to become a more powerful hero. And then, oh yes, the same thing, we get that ascension to a higher plane of existence, the ultimate boon, refusal of the return because you actually don't want to go back home. Then you take the road back home, and then we come back into the ordinary world. So there is this like split as well, and I look at that as where like Aries and Libra are. And being that we're in Virgo season right now, we're actually approaching in the hero's journey of us as a collective. We're kind of like in this like refusal of the return right now. I feel like after Leo season is over, we're kind of like, no, I want to kind of stay here, but then also realizing that we do have to come back home and perhaps bring a lot of these fantastical gifts that come from the special world into the ordinary world, where you then become a master of two worlds, returning with special knowledge that can help everyone else, and then you ascend to a higher plane. And in Odysseus' case, he became a king, right? Okay, so that's kind of a layout of the hero's journey, and I didn't really map that out specifically to the zodiac sign because that's not what today's talk is. What today's talk is going to be is actually about the heroic archetypes, and I have it laid out based on D&D. So if you're not familiar with D&D, D&D is Dungeons and Dragons, and it's known as a role-playing game, typically tabletop, although many, I'll say many video games actually take the concepts or the game, I don't want to say game engine, that's not the right word, the game rules, let's say, of typical D&D rules. So you can see here, this is the most updated one of 2024. And what I found was that the 12 signs of the zodiac pretty much map out to these in a different way. So we're going to go through each one, and I'll let you guys know what I think these class types are based on your astrological sign. Now, please bear in mind that your astro sign is so much more than your sun sign. So if you're saying like your sun sign is, let's say, an Aries, which I typically think is a fighter here, right? You may have other placements, right? So if you have your moon is in Pisces, that's going to pull you towards being more of like a monk or maybe a paladin, something that has a bit more of magical qualities to it. So you may end up being a blend of two classes as a result. But this is just a way of illustrating how the different astro signs do map up in character types that you play in this game of life, in this existence, right? So let's get to it. I'm actually working on my own D&D game based on the book that I wrote called The Dragon Warriors, and using my astro dice and tarot cards as a way of managing the encounters. So I'm hopefully going to have that ready for this weekend to have you guys, if you want to join and play that, we can get that going. I have some friends who can help along the way to help game master it, which is good. If you're interested as well, please do drop me a line on any of my socials or drop me a DM. Okay, so let's see. That's the free rules versus the player's handbook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, hold on. Let's see how many are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll go through each one, and these aren't going to map perfectly. It's just all to say that when you have your astro stack, which is I call your sun, moon, and your rising sign, you can also take into consideration if you have a lot of planets in a particular sign. It's more than likely that's going to be what you evolve into playing most. I look at your ascending sign or your rising sign, also known as the sign that you are based on your birth time, as being what this mainly is. Because it's like, let's say you're entering the RPG game, right? You're like, oh, I'm an infinite being. I feel like playing this game as a rogue this time. I've played all the other last lifetimes as a wizard, and this time I'm going to play this game as a rogue. But I still have memories. I still have past experience points from being a wizard that can help me in this game. So I love this because it helps illustrate certain concepts that are so fantastical, and we talk about like past lives and stuff, but in like RPG D&D, when you're like putting on a character, it gives you this perspective from an eagle's eye view where you can see the checkerboard, you can see the game, and act accordingly, and then also like be in it when you want to be in it, right? So let's start from the beginning here. Cleric. I love clerics actually. In Dragonlance, there's usually an alignment when it comes to each of these things. So either you are, let's say, good, evil, or neutral, and in each of those you have chaotic or orderly. So clerics are typically orderly and good. And so miraculous priest of divine power, clerics can reach out to the divine magic of the outer planes and channel it to bolster people and battle foes. So it's magic, but a magic that is very spiritual in nature. So let's look at the chart of the now, and we can map it out that way. Oh yes, here we go. So typically, let's say clerics. Cleric is probably going to be a water sign, because we're talking about spirituality. And so if we look at our water signs, we've got Scorpio, we've got Pisces, and we've got Cancer. I don't think Cancer and Scorpio maybe, but Scorpio's got that darkness to it. And clerics are typically like white light kind of heroes. So Pisces maybe. You know what? The more I think about it, I feel like Sagittarius could also be clerical in nature. Just because Sagittarius has this, even though a fire sign, this searching for the truth at all costs element. And this is the chart of the noun, just in case you're curious. We are currently in Virgo season, and we have the sun and moon stationed in Virgo right now. It's a very practical sign. And when we were talking about the hero's journey, right? We think of like the ordinary world, I would say, as a domain of Virgo, right? And Virgo opposes Pisces, and that takes us to, like, you know, the middle of the special world. And so that's why I kind of think of where are we? Clerics as being that. Let me just pull this out. Hold on, guys. I'm just gonna make sure that I'm coming through okay on my live. It's been a while since I've done this with you guys, right? So, oh, good. Everything looks fantastic. All right, so next we have a fighter. Fighters, master of all arms and armor. Fighters all share an unparalleled prowess with weapons and armor and are well acquainted with death, both meting it out and defying it. Oh, and you have these primary abilities. I didn't even read that for cleric. Primary ability is wisdom. And yeah, that makes me feel like it's a Pisces kind of sign, because after you've gone through this whole journey through the chart, you get back to Pisces and you're like, oh, all of my lessons, right? All of my wisdom through experience that I have, right? Hit point die. So this is where the dice come into place, right? So you assign a numeric value, and remember, things are all just symbolic. They're representations of it until you add the meaning yourself to it. So in this case, we have this as a D8. So that would be a hit point. What I would do in my game, right, if this were a Pisces and you were playing the Dragon Warriors RPG Astro game as a Pisces, your hit point would likely be the glyph of Pisces, or rather, yeah, the glyph of Pisces, right? Because then on the dice, it would have that. That would be your hit if you managed to match that. Or you could have something along the lines of, you're trying to do a water attack. If any sign comes up that is affiliated with water. But all of those things need to be mapped out as per the game rules. So stay tuned on what goes into the playbook. And let's see here, saves, wisdom and charisma. Charisma makes me feel like there's some Gemini there, but I'll leave cleric as being Pisces. So fighter, I already think this is Aries. It could be a Leo too, potentially, but I'm going to say fighter, typically Aries. And primary ability is strength or dexterity. Hit point die D8, D10. And in this case, you know, if you have the Aries glyph, or there's also a concept in astrology where certain planets are exalted in certain signs. So if a planet like Mars is rolled, it's likely that this will help the situation if you're playing as a fighter. And saves would be strength and constitution. Interesting. Constitution. I don't know if I would have thought of that. What would we call constitution, right? Constitution, definitely. Not to be confused with the Constitution of the United States, right? Let's see here. The act or process of composing, setting up, or establishing. So that part makes me feel like it's Leo, because it's kind of like that leadership quality of it. Aries can be good leaders too, though, so let's leave that at that. Next, we have the rogue, a dexterous expert in stealth and subterfuge. Rogues have a knack for finding the solution to just about any problem, prioritizing subtle strikes over brute strength. And primary ability is dexterity. So I would look at this as, I think there's a couple options here for rogues. Rogues are kind of like anti-heroes, right? Like very Han Solo. So I think of them as like being kind of Gemini-like, where you can like pretend to be a bad guy and go in and you're really on the good side. But then sometimes people on your own team are like, are you really on our team still? So that's a very kind of like roguish characteristic. Another sign that's kind of like that could be Scorpio, but Scorpio is got a lot more of like magical qualities to it. So Gemini's also got magic stuff to it. So maybe it depends, I think, on your other placements as well when it comes to rogue. But I do think if you are going to play as a rogue, you do have to have either Gemini or Scorpio aspects to have these primary abilities of dexterity, right? Moldability, being able to. So maybe it's a mutable sign thing. I don't feel like that would be Virgo. Virgos don't feel like they would be very roguish. Let's see. And Pisces is a mutable sign. Gemini is mutable. Feels like a Gemini. Scorpio is fixed, but is water. So I think we're leaning towards it being Gemini. But skills being more on the lines of intelligence and dexterity, right? And less on the magic part of Mercury and Gemini. So speaking of magic, we have Wizard next, a scholarly magic user of arcane power. Wizards cast spells of explosive fire, arcing lightning, subtle deception, and spectacular transformations. Primary ability is intelligence. And we've got the hit point die of D6. It's interesting how D8 is the same for both clerics and rogues, and D6 is for wizard. And saves are intelligence and wisdom. So there's some commonality here with wisdom between clerics and wizards. So if we were to place wizards in the chart, I feel like that would be more Scorpio, being a wizard. Let's see what else. Geminis could be wizards too. As I said, like if you have Gemini and Scorpio placements, more than likely you're maybe something in between a cleric and a wizard. Or maybe you're a cleric who are like, I don't want to follow all the rules of the temple and I'm just going to be a rogue wizard, right? So all of these signs kind of, you are all the signs, right? So it's just kind of like the lenses that you're looking through as you approach them. So yeah, let's say wizard is Scorpio for now. We'll go with that. And then cleric is Pisces, rogue is Gemini, fighter is Aries. I like that so far. Barbarian. Who would that be? I feel like people would say that's Taurus. But let's look. Let's see here. Who could be a barbarian? Like brute strength. I feel like you could also say that about Aries. But maybe that's more about like here. Aries to Taurus, right? Because Hephaestus and this idea of Taurus, like the masculine side of Taurus, because Taurus is a feminine sign, is that more like Aphrodite married Hephaestus. Well, Zeus made her because she was distracting everybody. So he married him to Hephaestus, who is the blacksmith, creates weapons, all that kind of stuff. I would say that, let's see here, a fierce war of primal rage. Barbarians are mighty warriors who are powered by primal forces of the multiverse that manifest as a rage. Oh, that feels like a Taurus. That feels like an Aries Taurus combination. Because I have that. And you just like blow up kind of situation. So yeah, let's say there. A certain kind of Taurus with Aries aspect would probably be a barbarian. A bard, an inspiring performer of music, dance, and magic. I like bards a lot. Bards are expert at inspiring others, soothing hurts. Oh, I didn't go into barbarian's primary ability. Sorry, guys. Sorry to all the barbarians out there. In Dragonlance, Riverwind and Gold Moon are barbarians in the initial party in Dragonlance of the Chronicles. It's kind of sad because as the story goes on, you kind of like lose sight of Gold Moon, even though she has the lance to begin with. And I like Gold Moon a lot. Lucy Lawless does her voice, I think, in the animated version. Primary ability is strength. Hit point die is D12. And saves are strength and constitution. Interesting. And I love this idea of constitution as being like the physical makeup of a person. I think that's more like it. And this idea of composing, setting up. So it's this idea of like this character's body, the way that they're built. And the fighter, same thing. Your structure is yourself. And when that brings me, like, that makes me feel like it's very Taurus-y too, because the body, that's what Taurus represents. So maybe we are barbarians, Tauruses. Okay, then we've got the bard, an inspiring performer of music, dance, and magic. Bards are expert at inspiring others, soothing hurts, disheartening foes, and creating illusions. Ooh. So the primary ability here is charisma. A hit point die is D8. I feel like all these magic users, their hit point die is D8. Interesting. And then saves, primary ability is charisma. Saves are dexterity and charisma. Bards are musical in nature, right? And they're all about telling stories. So I feel like that's got a Sagittarius Gemini feel to it, because that axis is that communication axis and telling stories, you know, like Gemini being communication and thought, and Sagittarius as being publishing and how you distribute that. So it's probably more Sagittarius. Gemini has a bit more of that duplicity around it that gives it that rogue aspect, right? Or that wizardy aspect where it's a little bit more subtle deception, right? Or subtle strikes or brute strength, a way of like being malleable to the situation and then using the skills that are required for you at the time. And then we've got the, so yeah, bard will probably be Sagittarius. I do think that if maybe you have maybe a Taurus to Gemini, right? Because Taurus has a lot of musical throat chakra affiliations. As that comes into into Gemini, that could be you as well as a bard. Also, if your moon sign maybe sits somewhere that's very communicative and based in like that music, Libra would probably be there too, actually, because Libra's a Venetian sign and also about like the arts, and the bard is all about music, dance, and magic. It's kind of Venus-y, right? So I'll say a bard could be Sagittarius, Gemini, Libra. And I think it's all about the components of these signs and how they are stacked in you personally. And or you could look at your rising sign too, right? Like you may have like entered the game, your rising sign being, let's say, a Sagittarius or a Gemini, and you're like a bard, and as you go, your sun becomes more activated, which let's say is an Aries, and so you become more of a fighter. So you're a bard fighter. That exists though too, right? Orpheus, part of the Argonauts, was a bard, but he was also a fighter with his crew, right? So you always need a bard on the team to tell the story. I think myself and my friend Arthur talked about how in The Witcher you have, oh my gosh, what's his name? There's a bard to tell the story, to tell the myth, because, you know, that's kind of the whole point of heroes, isn't it? To tell a good story. All right. Next, we have a druid here. So druids are very affiliated with nature. So a nature priest of primal power. Druids call on the forces of nature, harnessing magic to heal, transform into animals, and wield elemental destruction. Primary ability here is wisdom. Hit point die D8. See that again. And then saves are intelligence and wisdom. So very it's interesting how it's intelligence and wisdom, but it's also like being about nature, which can be very, like, our bodies are a reflection of that. So I think that's earth energy if we think of druids. And so the earth signs are Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo. Virgo being ruled by Mercury, though, I do think that's a bit more of like a druid situation here. And this idea of intelligence and wisdom being there, I think that druids are Virgos. Yeah, I mean, other things that could be there too is that Taurus Gemini thing here, right? Where, because Taurus has a lot of is earthy, and Gemini is very intelligent, and you have that play between Venus and Mercury there, which I think lends itself to this kind of character type. All right, coming down here, we have a monk. And in this case for D&D, monks are martial artists of supernatural forces. So monks focus their internal reservoirs of power to create extraordinary, even supernatural effects. And so their primary abilities are dexterity and wisdom. Hit point die D8, not surprised. And then saves are strength and dexterity. So who would the monk be, you guys? Dexterity and wisdom. That's an interesting play. I feel like that could be Aquarius, actually, for monks. Just because, too, Aquarius has this level of aloofness. Like, even though Aquarius is very much concerned with the world, right? I think Aquarius people want to actually save the world. But they don't necessarily want to be involved in all the nitty-gritty aspects of it. That's just my feel of it. So I feel like there is some commonality there with a monk, and also like martial artists as well. So they can fight, but they choose not to, right? Yeah, I'll leave that there. And this idea of wisdom being there, I kind of forgot to include Aquarius for where wizard, I think, as well, because I think that Aquarius in that air sign as well could do this. And as well as, where is it? Yeah, I think so. So monk, let's say Aquarius. Let's go back to the beginning and see if we can like maybe have like one sign per, even though there's like some blending of the few, right? So cleric, we said Pisces, fighter, Aries, rogue, Gemini, or maybe Scorpio, depending. Wizard would be a few options. I'm going to say Scorpio. Could be Aquarius. You could also have some Gemini there as well. Then barbarian, I'm saying like Aries into Taurus, closer to that cusp, as well as, who else would we say? Like, you're thinking about like physicality, right? So maybe Capricorn too, when I think about it. Although Capricorn also, I think, is a bit more elegant in the approach. Where were we? Bard is going to be Sagittarius, let's say. Or it could be Gemini, right? Depending on your placements. Druid, we said, was Virgo, right? Monk, we said, was Aquarius. Paladin, a devout warrior of sacred oaths. So we have this warrior, but then also has this level of spirituality attached to it. So when we think of goddesses having their champions and they're on like a sacred mission, it's kind of like a paladin. And paladins, I know from Dragonlance, as the paladins being associated with Sturm Brightblade and the Knights of Solamnia. Paladins live on the front lines of the cosmic struggle, united by their oaths against the forces of annihilation. I love they chose this photo too. It kind of looks ominous. Primary abilities are strength and charisma. Hit point die D10, saves, wisdom, and charisma. So strength and charisma. What an interesting combination. I would say that kind of lends itself to being Leo a bit, right? This like warrior of the sun, but maybe a Leo closer to Cancer, right? Because this idea of following your heart, and you are taking sacred oaths, which anchors in your warrior self. So let's say a paladin would be Leo, but I would say too, like fighters generally could be Aries or Leo. But in this case, I'm going to say paladin is more likely to be a Leo on the closer to Cancer, or perhaps an early Aries close to Pisces. And then next we have a range. I like rangers, actually. A wandering warrior imbued with primal magic. Rangers are honed with deadly focus and harness primal powers to protect the world from the ravages of monsters and tyrants. You think of rangers as like, who was that in Lord of the Rings? Oh my gosh. Why is it escaping me right now? The Knight, Return of the King, Aragon. There you go. He's a ranger. Rangers are honed with deadly focus and harness primal powers, and they protect the world. Their primary abilities are dexterity and wisdom. Hit point die D10, saves, strength, and dexterity. And then we've got sorcerer, a dazzling mage filled with innate magic. Sorcerers harness and channel the raw, rolling power of innate magic that is stamped into their very being. So you just can't help but be magical. It's just imbued in you. And the saves are constitution and charisma. So, a sorceress. I feel like that's here. I feel like that's a Scorpio into Sagittarius. This area right here. A lot of stuff happens here too, I find, in the actual cosmic clock. But if you were born around that time, I feel like there might be some capabilities there of like innate magic, like this is talking about. And this whole charisma aspect, I feel like is this mutable sign situation. You're able to be charming. And Sagittarius opposing Gemini, that does that too. Warlock, an occultist empowered by otherworldly pacts. Warlock's quest for knowledge lies hidden in the fabric of the multiverse, piecing together arcane secrets to bolster their own power. And so this is charisma and wisdom and charisma. I look at like this is kind of like it's like where certain characters draw their magic from, right? And their alignments are what make each of their character types distinct. In this case, yeah, D8, but D6 for sorcerer. Interesting. So, wisdom and charisma. Who would a warlock be? I would say Scorpio, or you would have Aquarius, I think, or even Gemini. Because it's this, because it's a warlock, it's like you probably have some Aries tendencies in you, or Scorpio's ancient ruler is Mars, and so it does have that fiery feel to it, even though it's a water sign, that duality of it. So yes, and there's this quest for knowledge, which is why I kind of feel like if you're an Aquarius, there's some possibility there that could be a thing. Like let's say you have an Aquarius Aries thing, or like Leo, right? Because Leo opposes Aquarius, and you know, the shadow side of Leo, right, being a leader and charismatic, is that you can also become a tyrant. We have something here too. This is Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, an artificer, a master of invention. This feels like an Aquarius, right? Invention, ingenuity, and magic. This other way of looking at it. So I'm gonna leave this D&D and Beyond classes thing in the replay of this as I go along creating my own real life RPG game based on astrology and how you can join that game, as well as you can also reach out to me for a personal reading as well as your own RPG sheet so I can show you where I think you kind of play or like what gifts are open to you in this game of life. So I already went a little bit over what I kind of intended to for tonight because the info was so good, and it's been a little while since I've done one of these Astro Salons live with you guys. So thank you for joining me for this conversation about how the heroic archetypes of stories line up to astrology and the zodiac wheel, and how your particular astro stack can give you some information as to what you decided before you even came into this game, right? So I look forward to seeing all of you on Thursday when I do a little breakdown of the Justice League and their astro charts and the constellation of what makes up a superhero team, so that you can go out and find the rest of your superhero team. So I think that takes care of that, guys. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Neurolinguistic Astrology Salon Live. I am your host, Rachel Z. Please do subscribe if you find my content of any value to you at all. I so appreciate it. And until next time,